Welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm a commercial banker, and I'm your host for this show. Joining me is my co-host, James Chan of Asian Marketing and Management Company.
Thank you.
James, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Paul.
So we were discussing a little bit before the show some topic we thought might be of interest to our viewers. Now, the name of the show is Money Matters.
Exactly.
But we're saying, well, money is important, and the show is about money. But money is not the be-all and everything.
I think so. I hope it's not too sacrilegious a question or cynical, because it's not meant to be.
Well, give us an example then of what you mean.
Well, because I think that in a way, people who don't have money and need money, they have to go for money. I mean, it's really so basic. But at some point in time, when you have enough money, you begin to wonder what it is that will kind of make
you said enough money. Different people have different ideas what enough money is.
I knew you would be coming in with that.
$75,000 income a year, $1 million in the bank.
I think that years ago there was a survey done in the UK, United Kingdom, that people who made about $75,000, and assuming that they have savings and everything, they kind of begin to feel, well, all right, I want to look for something more meaningful, more interesting, more exciting, more motivating to do. And just making more money for the sake of making money for the sake of making more money is really an option. So I think that it's a great idea, particularly at this time when people seem to feel that, well, we are all vino. Am I using the word vino? Like, available.
It's not a compliment.
No, it's not a compliment at all. In other words, you can be bought with money. You can do anything.
Right.
And the money is the be-all and end-all, which I really don't feel so. I really, really do not feel so. I've lived this spectrum myself. I mean, when I started out with absolutely nothing, actually worse than absolutely nothing, I needed to get money, I needed to make more money. But over time, I decided, no, at some point in time, even if I am to double my money, I'm not going to be happier.
How many years did it take for you to get to the point of saying, of thinking that way a little bit even? I'm getting there, I'm okay now.
10
years?
A long time. 20, 25, 30,
Okay. Wow.
30
so
years.
You were middle-aged virtually.
Oh, yeah, I'm 70. I mean, I'm not hiding anything.
No, I'm saying when this happened, when you got that feeling of, I'm okay now.
Yeah. I mean, I actually lived through...
It is a long haul.
It is a long haul, and I think that it takes... I also believe that I don't know. I'm not trying to tell people that money is bad.
No.
It's just that I feel money sometimes is made as a score.
Everything.
You know, people keep score because money is so countable. You know, you can calibrate, you can count.
Well, I mean, I'll give you two examples of some very wealthy people that have loads and loads of money. Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, he still lives in his house that he bought in 1958 with his wife for like $35,000. He's worth, I don't know, 50, $100 billion. He's not a spender. So obviously the money part isn't that important to him. But the scorecard in terms of, I'm great at what I do is important. And he's in his 80s now.
Forget such celebrities as Bill Gates and all these Tim Cook and all these really wealthy and famous people. It's just in my case, in the beginning of my consulting career, I founded my own consulting practice. In the first 15 years, 20 years, I would never be saying what I'm now saying. But after a while, I found myself, no, I don't want to take on any client simply because I want his or her money. No, I want something else. I want to work with people I respect and trust and feel good about.
Well, that's the other thing we're talking about is relationships. In fact, a lot of business comes about because of relationships.
I think it's crucial.
If you're not a trustworthy person, you don't deal well with other people,
right.
Why are they going to do business with you, and how are you going to make money as an offshoot of that?
Exactly. I really believe, I'm a living example. I have a client who has renewed my retainer for so many decades. I don't even want to mention this because that's too much. It's too abnormal. But it's because we do feel we trust each other, we respect each other, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
So it's not motivated by money. I mean, they pay me well, but that's not
right.
that's not about money.
I'll give you a little amusing anecdote about
Yeah.
money and relationships and that type of thing. So I was watching the movie The Fountainhead.
Yes.
From the novel written by Ayn Rand. This movie was made in 1949.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Ayn Rand, the woman is a beautiful young woman. In her 20s, she's engaged to this young man who's an architect, and they're in I guess the guy's this young man's office. Okay. Well, his father's office. Father's a big tycoon, big newspaper tycoon, and his father says, tell you what, I'll give you this, my son, this big architectural contract for this new big building.
Oh yeah.
If you cancel the
marriage,
the marriage with this woman. And he says, yeah, I'm serious. And the young man goes, and the young woman's there. She's going,
yeah.
And the guy finally says, all right, I'll take the contract. So that was just money.
That's money. Yeah, that's
relationships.
Venal.
And so who would ever want to deal? I mean, any viewer would look at that and go, oh my God, what a creep.
Yeah.
What a creep.
So I think that I just want to emphasize people do business with other people. They don't do business with money. I mean, money is just something that people who can get along, who respect one another, just will create some. They find a way. So,
well, there are lots of other things that affect money too. And one of the big things these days is what's happening in China these days.
Wow.
And one of our viewers
has
a question.
Okay.
And just right up your alley, James. The question is from Nancy Victor of Philadelphia.
Okay.
And she asks, how do you see the China and the U.S. trade talks going in 2020? And we're in 2020, so here we go.
I personally, Nancy, don't really think much of it now because the whole thing has become so unpredictable and people have changed strategies, thinking. Because to be very frank, I think the U.S. and China have reached a point right now where the trust and respect are not even there. Ooh. And so, we're kind of talking for the sake of talking. And U.S. businesses do need China, not just to sell to the Chinese people, but also for the suppliers that China give, which is much more important. Sure. So I think that to be very pragmatic, in my case of helping my own client, we kind of, I think we have ignored, by and large, whatever is going on with the trade talks. We just come up with our own practical ways to dodge the bullets and do what we need to do to make a profit, to protect our market share. To give you one example, and I'll stop. Let's say if our product becomes very expensive because of Chinese retaliation,
tariffs
against U.S. tariffs,
yes.
Then it so happens that we do have a factory in Europe. So instead of shipping products made in Philadelphia, we would have our company in Europe making it so that we can still keep our market share.
Good strategy.
So we do our thing. We can deal with all the noises and dysfunction and really travail that the trade talks will continue to give in 2020. I'm sure that my point of view is very straightforward. I'm not hiding anything.
No. Thanks, James. It's a tough issue.
I do the best I can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
And to the rest of our viewers, if you have a question you would like to send in to Money Matters TV, this is how you do it.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says, Send us your questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
And now I'd like to introduce our featured guest for this show, Ken Milner. Ken, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
With the law firm of Kraut Harris, PC, I understand.
That's correct.
So you are a practicing attorney.
Practicing, maybe someday I'll get it right.
But you have a lot of experience, in a bunch of different fields.
That's true. I do a lot of business and real estate and franchise work.
Well, one of the ones that seemed interesting was you'd mentioned that you do a lot of work with PAR, capital P, capital A, capital R.
Right.
What is PAR?
Well, PAR stands for the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors.
Okay.
And this is a Money Matters show, and there's one thing that you and James both know, and that is, of course, that until we colonize the moon, we're going to always have more and more people who want real estate and less real estate available to them. The Pennsylvania Association of Realtors is a group of realtors here in the Commonwealth who have gotten together and have created ways to assist themselves in moving forward and helping people buy and sell real estate.
What kind of size group is this? 10 or 20?
Yeah, exactly.
10 or 20,000.
And it was
50,000.
very ancient, right? So to speak, they formed a long time ago.
Yes. I don't know as much about the inner workings of the association as I do as to what comes out of the association. I do a lot of real estate work, and as a result, I deal a lot with people who have to sign agreements, whether they're for purchasing residential real estate or commercial real estate, or maybe even leasing real estate. And because I'm an attorney that works in real estate, I use, it's very important that those contracts do what the clients want us to do with them.
Right.
And your clients are people that are buying or selling as opposed to
They're
members
people-
of the PAR? Member of the PAR?
Sure,
All
they're
the-
everybody.
Everybody.
Anybody who wants to buy and sell real estate these days has to make sure that he or she has a contract that makes sense financially, legally, and socially.
And in this interview, your focus is really not just on PAR, but the PAR form, a form that
Exactly.
somehow people filled out. Can
Right.
you explain why, how?
Sure. Imagine that you will be going to buy a piece of real estate. You want to buy a new home or somebody else's home,
Right.
an existing house. What you'll do is you'll go to a realtor's office who will help you find a place. And sure enough, there's, a place that you decide is great.
Okay.
And just like you see on television, oh, well, let's just come back to my office and we'll fill out the form and sign the agreement and send it off to the other side. Well, back when I was starting out, I think that was during the Lincoln administration, but back when I was starting out, that form was maybe 2 pages.
Wow.
Now that form is closer to 22 or 28 pages of very small print.
The PAR form.
The PAR
it's still
form.
called a PAR form.
That's correct.
Okay.
The PAR form is so well known because I would have to say that 90% of all of the residential real estate contracts are PAR form contracts.
Okay.
These are contracts that are designed and drafted by attorneys for realtors, not attorneys for buyers, not attorneys for sellers, but attorneys for realtors.
And the PAR form applies to residential real estate as much as to industrial.
Absolutely.
Real
Commercial, industrial, residential,
Okay.
vacant land.
Right, yeah.
There's a PAR
Keep
form
going.
for virtually
Yeah, okay.
any type of real estate contract.
So what is so special, or what's the problem, or what is the opportunity or challenges about a PAR form that you want to focus on?
That's a great question. There's a lot of good about the PAR form.
Okay.
There's so many things to think about when a person is buying or selling real
Right.
estate.
Okay.
And so imagine trying to buy a piece of real estate these days without doing an inspection.
Correct.
So there are things about
Okay.
inspections.
All right.
There are new laws all the time about sewers and this and that
Oh,
and a
yeah.
million other
Oh, yeah.
things. The PAR form is great in the sense that it incorporates a lot of these issues. But there's a problem with the PAR form. And the problem is that, again, it is drafted by and for realtors, not for buyers, not for sellers, but for realtors. The Pennsylvania Association of Realtors is there to help realtors. And realtors get paid in a real estate deal if that deal goes through.
Yeah.
They might get a little money if somebody backs out of a deal. They might lose, someone might lose a deposit, and they might get a portion of it. But the real money comes in when the deal goes through.
Agree.
That form is drafted in such a way as to make it very difficult for both buyers and sellers to extract themselves from the deal, to
I didn't know
extricate
that.
themselves.
I did not know that.
Right.
I mean,
And so what has happened is this. The realtor has become now so much a part of what happens with the transaction. The realtor usually holds the deposit money. The realtor is in charge of helping to get payoff statements from mortgage companies and tax certifications and all sorts of other certifications that you need to close the deal. The realtor has become an integral part of it. It's no longer a deal between buyers and sellers. Now, the realtor has become such an important part that the realtor has inserted himself or herself into that contract. Well, when you insert yourselves into a contract,
Third party,
what will happen is that now you start to become liable.
Wow.
What happens if you do something wrong?
Get sued,
What happens is, you're going to get sued. So,
when you say you mean the
as a realtor, right.
Or the,
If you're part of the deal and you do something wrong, now as a realtor, you might end up on the butt end of a lawsuit. So what happens is that form has more and more levels of protection for the realtor. There's releases right in that agreement that say, oh no, you can't sue the realtor. As a matter of fact, if you do sue the realtor, you have to pay the realtor's attorney's fees.
which means that if an owner sells his own house on his own without a realtor,
Correct.
then he therefore takes the heat if something goes wrong.
For sure.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Well, here's a follow-up question on that. In this world of social media,
Right.
now I haven't actually bought a house through social media recently, but I have rented a couple of houses, and I'm told, I understand that similar activity is on Craigslist. I was told specifically, go to Craigslist first. This is by realtors, okay? After they went through their initial inventory, the ones they had the listing for it. They said, after that, you're on your own, go to Craigslist. What do you mean go to Craigslist? Well, that's where we, the realtors, post our stuff first, okay? Because we don't want to have multiple listing and have some other realtor insert themselves and collect part of that commission. So Craigslist is supposed to be the way to go. It streamlines things, reduces expenses, et cetera, et cetera.
It's amazing that you spoke about that. One of the things that is being addressed right now by the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors, as a matter of fact, the National Realtors Association has actually gotten together and they are starting to address this issue. There are a lot of real estate agents who handle what we call pocket listings. What they will do is take a listing as something that's going to be on a Craigslist or some other type of something other than the multiple listing service. And they will do that and they will try and sell the property that way first and make more money than if they go through their own realtor. And so what will happen is that now that's being done. And you will find that associations like the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors and even the local ones like MCAR, the Montgomery County Association of Realtors, are very concerned about this because what is happening is that you end up in a situation where buyers and sellers are not necessarily getting the benefits of what realtors really do. You may lose a lot of things in that side agreement or pocket listing.
My experience when I was first running a house in Philadelphia a few years ago was that I'm dealing with this person. This person says, well, I don't own the house. My sister owns the house, but she's in Nairobi, so I'm handling it for her. Needless to say, my antenna goes up. You know, like that Nairobi letter we all get in email, you know, send me $100,000, they'll send you $1 million type of thing, you know? I said, okay, you seem to be, I Googled the person, you know, that I'm talking to, okay, and it seemed to be legitimate and all. I'm going like this, and it worked out fine. But I was like, I gave him $6,000, you know, I didn't know if I was going to ever see it again.
As I said, I would never want to come off as saying that realtors aren't worth the fees that they receive. Mm-hmm. They do a lot to help. And a lot of times attorneys have to know not to get involved. Don't try and be the person who negotiates the business part of the deal. Stick to the legal stuff. But at the same time, the PAR form is a problem because the PAR form tries to take away a person's need to have an attorney look over that agreement. The PAR form now is done in such a way that when you go back to the realtor's office to sign it, it's all on an electronic screen. Here, initial here, sign here, put a number in there. And so people don't see out of these 22 pages or 28 pages of documentation, there might only be a page and a half worth of those numbers. The rest, which is sometimes called boilerplate, is where you really have a problem. It's those things that can trip up somebody. We were mentioning before that, people think, oh, I want a mortgage contingency clause. If I can't get a loan for my house, then, I want the deal to be off.
Sure.
Well, take a look at that mortgage contingency clause in the PAR form. Oh, it may have the right numbers in there, but there's a little paragraph that says, oh, but you'll take whatever number we set out for you, or you'll be able to go 5% higher. It's kind of tucked away somewhere. There might be
more of a down payment.
No, about whether or not, what if the interest rate is a
5%,
point higher? Yeah, whatever.
5 points higher.
Yeah, it'll say
8% versus 3.5%. Oh, sure, no problem.
Well, it's not quite that bad, but it does leave room to make it that bad. Not only that, there's nothing in that form that says that the buyer has the right to back out. The actual language of the form says that the seller has the right to back out if the buyer can't get a loan, so the seller can resell the property to somebody else. So you could be having a difficult time backing out of the deal. And remember, that's the whole point. Don't let people back out of the deal. Inspection clauses are similar. Back and forth as to what happens with inspections. To me, it's much easier to simply have an agreement that simply says, the buyer has the right for a certain period of time to get all the inspections the buyer wants at the buyer's expense.
Right.
The seller will cooperate. After a certain period of time, the buyer has a right for any reason to back out of the deal if the buyer doesn't like the inspection. Okay. If the two parties can come to an agreement, if the inspection comes out, there's something wrong, they have a week to make up their mind, get a deal. Instead of this back and forth, there's about 11 pages of that kind of thing.
So what is one simple or plain rule of thumb, a piece of advice, basic advice that you will give people, your viewers?
It's the same advice I give anybody who signs any form, real estate or otherwise. Have the attorney look over that form. Have the attorney look at that boilerplate and see whether it's good for you. And
but
make whatever changes are necessary.
But the boilerplate is set already for everybody,
That's
no?
right. Well, it's set, but they haven't signed it yet. So what you do is instead of just going to the office and clicking on some buttons and filling in a number, print out that form. Take that form to an attorney. Have the attorney look it over and say, this has to be changed. That has to be changed. This should be adjusted. That should be adjusted. And then, by being able to do that, you have now been able to take that form, excise or change those things that need changing, and now that will work for you. And by the way, understand that the other side should have the opportunity to do the same thing. This should be a deal that's worked out between buyers and sellers.
One of the other issues is we talk about the standard PAR form.
Yeah, standard.
As a banker, people always told me, standard form. Guess what? There's no such thing as a standard form except my standard and your standard and his standard. Okay? So it could be a PA form. What's the date on it? What edition is it? Is it this month? Last month? 10 years ago? Who the hell knows?
That's a great.
And maybe it doesn't say PAR on it. Where do you find it on the form? You've dealt with these forms before? No, he has.
That's a great point. the PAR form is actually changed 1 or 2 times a year. This form is always under change. Now, sometimes that's important because there are changes in the law. And so it's important to have those things incorporated into the form. And I think it's great that those things are put out. It's good to know that there are things now that we didn't worry about 30 years ago. You didn't have to worry about asbestos, and you didn't have to worry about vapor intrusion and things like that in your house. So these forms can be good. But you're right, a lot of them are very old forms, and it's important that somebody at least take the time to address what might be new.
Mm-hmm. Ken, would I save money and avoid all these problems by not using a realtor in the first place?
No. It will probably cost you money not to use a realtor. There's so many things that have to be done when you're buying and selling real estate. First of all, in terms of selling your own real estate, having a realtor will help you. In most cases, the realtor is able to reach people and have a network of people who will look at that house or that piece of property that you might not otherwise be able to do. Right. More important is that the realtor, as I said, will handle a lot of these things that take place between the time an agreement is signed and the time of settlement. There are all sorts of certifications, tax receipts, all this paperwork, all these things that have to be done, zoning issues, all kinds of things. And the realtor really earns his or her fee when they do that. But as I said, that doesn't eliminate the need for an attorney, but you do need that realtor, someone with experience and someone who will help you and knows the neighborhood, both as a buyer and seller realtor.
Good advice. Ken, as we wind up the show, any last piece of advice?
It's the one I said before. Don't be afraid to take your time and get it right. Sometimes they feel like there's a lot of pressure. Oh, if you don't sign this form now, somebody else could jump in and buy the house ahead of you.
And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, Jerry, for houses these days.
Be very careful. I don't succumb to that pressure. Everybody should make sure he's an attorney, a realtor, an accountant. Get as much information as possible before you ever sign anything.
Ken, thank you very much. Great sage advice and worth a lot of money, I think. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
So our next guest for the Money Matters show will be Jerry Ellman. Jerry he's also an attorney. He's with Ellman Technology Law, PC. And that'll be our next show. So in the meantime, just remember on this show, your money matters.